Welcome to a Sunny Side Up Life podcast, a show for the woman who is ready to live an abundant life full of freedom and positivity. I'm your host, Sami Womack, a nationally recognized money expert, budgeting coach, and your very own hype squad. I'm on a mission to help you break free from survival mode, gain financial freedom, stay motivated, and focus on what matters most. Join the movement and let's start living on the brighter side of life together. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be talking about how to build the habit of budgeting regularly. This is one of the biggest challenges that I see when people are starting out on their financial journeys. And I don't know, good news, bad news situation here, that it really comes down to the root of it is learning how to build a habit and finding the underlying foundational motivation to change your habits and to become a better version of yourself. And this isn't just for budgeting. So if you have another area of your life that you have learned how to overcome the struggles and maybe you're doing better than average, maybe try to take some of the lessons that you learned from those different aspects and apply it to budgeting if budgeting happens to be your Achilles heel. I'll give a personal example. So for me, obviously, budgeting and money, it's one of my favorite things. It's one of my strong suits, right? Personally, my Achilles heel is like my health, my fitness, my food, that whole aspect of my life. That is my weakness. That is what I struggle with. So I actually recently started working with a trainer and started taking this area of my life a little more seriously. I'm sharing this as a good example here. Okay. Follow me on this one. So I have taken a lot of the lessons that I learned with money and started applying it to my fitness journey and my journey with food and all of that stuff. Because I realized that at the root of all of it, it is actually just habit building. And so if you have a certain area of your life that you're like, check, I've accomplished that, right? And money is your weakness. Maybe there's some lessons learned there that you can kind of pull over. So for me, I had to really get down to the root, the foundation, the ultimate big picture goal, because I knew that's what worked for me with money. So I tried to apply that same lesson to my health and fitness journey. And wouldn't you know, this time that I'm kind of applying some of those same lessons, I am actually building healthy habits. I'm actually becoming a better version of myself. We're going to dig into this a little bit more, but I just kind of wanted to share that personal story. And maybe you have some area in your life that you're like, hey, that is actually one of my strengths. Maybe that is your health and fitness. Maybe that is your taking care of your house. Maybe you're really good at like keeping your house clean and organized, or you're really good at meal planning, or you're someone who like has a really great laundry routine or a grocery shopping routine. And you're like, yeah, I'm killing it. Like that habit, I've got that. Maybe there are some similarities there that you could take from that habit that you have already conquered and you can apply them to your money. So I'll let you kind of, think on that and think if you can think of any personal examples as we kind of dig into this a little bit. So the thing with budgeting is in money and personal finance as an overarching umbrella topic, there are so many little tangent habits that need to be built throughout. That's why it's not going to be just a one and done situation. It's not going to be you clean out your garage and then it's done forever. It's not one of those chores. It is more like dishes, laundry, grocery shopping kind of chore. It is something that has to consistently be worked on. It is a consistent revolving chore. And I think the sooner that we kind of wrap our mind around that it's never going to be a one and done kind of thing, the better off we're going to be. And just to kind of put it in that category over there with like dishes and laundry, it's something that's going to consistently need to be on your to-do list. Even for me, it's something that's consistently on my to-do list, checking on the budget, move money around, all the different things we have to do. But there are so many little tangent habit building things that could actually help your budget, like meal planning. The better we get at meal planning, the better our grocery budget's going to look, the better our restaurant budget is going to look. And that's going to directly affect your budget. There's just so many other things about getting in the habit of saving money, sending money to savings, getting in the habit of actually hitting submit payment and actually paying off that debt, getting in the habit of checking in on your budget, getting in the habit of making sure your bills are paid on time and all of this kind of stuff. So notice I'm saying building habits. It is something that is going to be a muscle. And for me, this changed, like this helped me so much just get a grip on it. It is a muscle. It is something that's going to start off small and weak. And it is something that is not going to happen overnight. It is something that has to be exercised daily, weekly, consistently over time. We can't just go in and start, bench pressing 300 pounds or something. It's something that we're going to have to build up to over time. It's going to take time. It's going to take grace, just like, with your health and fitness journey. You're not going to just walk in there day one, bench press 300 pounds, and then just consistently every single day keep going in there and bench pressing 300 pounds. You're going to have days where you get sick. You're going to have days where you're tired. You're going to have days where, you're on vacation. And gosh, we could do the similarities between money and fitness on vacation all day long, because all the rules go out the window, right? So how do we kind of relate this? So same thing, like it's going to take time. It's going to take grace. And I think the sooner that we wrap our heads around the fact that it's never going to be perfect, probably the better. For me, as someone who is a recovering perfectionist, a Enneagram 3 oldest child syndrome, all the things that you could think of, perfectionism was rooted very deep in my identity. And doing anything halfway perfect was unacceptable. There's no such thing, the whole thing or nothing at all, And so once I kind of wrapped my head around the fact that it was never going to be perfect, a lot of things changed for me. So if that's one of the mindsets that you need to work on yourself, we'll go ahead and, put that on your mental to-do list, because that one was huge for me. So it is one thing to create a budget, but how do we actually practice budgeting? What is it, right? To me, a full, actually working, functioning budget is, number one, you have to plan ahead. I see so many people that have the current month planned and that's it. And I really think that you're selling yourself short, like you're kind of missing it a little bit there. Great that you're planning the current month, but I want you to plan even farther. I want you to plan like the year. That's kind of a lot, I know. But a lot of cases, once you start to plan it, a lot of it is kind of a copy and paste. So once you kind of get the basics of your budget down, which we're going to talk about in a minute, it is much, much easier to just kind of copy and paste for the future months. Even if your income is kind of sporadic, you can at least plan the predictables, right? We at least know when our rent is going to be due, when our electric bill is going to be due. We can at least give ourselves some sort of a grocery budget. Anyway, so, getting ahead of myself here, but planning ahead, super, super important. This also helps you really break free of that paycheck to paycheck mentality, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we got to be thinking farther ahead than just the next paycheck or just the current month that we're in. Also, really tracking your spending. Tracking your spending sucks. I'll be really honest. It's the worst part of budgeting. The farther you get into your budget, when you're several years in, it becomes less important. I will be honest with you, it does become less important because you've really learned yourself and your spending money is over here in its own separate account. And it's really, you're kind of more overall talking about your spending total. then the exact categories that it goes into. But tracking your spending still more or less has to happen. And it's not to shame yourself. It's not to judge yourself. What really helped me was thinking of it as I'm simply collecting data. I simply have to know where my money is going. I have to know where my money went so I can know in the future months where I need to tell my money to go. So it really is like, let me look at my past data. Let me analyze those patterns. I say, if you can stomach this, if you can like do the mental gymnastics that you need to do to talk yourself into doing this, it is really best and ideal to go back and look at like 3 months worth of spending and kind of get an average. Okay, that's huge. And that can be super, super overwhelming. And a lot of people will be like, and they'll just stop right there because it's too hard. So if that's you, I don't want that to be, it's not a make or break. You don't have to do it, but it is going to be really helpful for you to go back and kind of collect that data. This is what I did. I went back the past 3 months. I actually printed everything out. And I did the highlighter trick of like pink is groceries, green is gas, blue is restaurants, whatever. And I highlighted everything. And then I got an average for the past 3 months. That helped me collect data. That's not placing judgment on these numbers. They're simply numbers. They're not good. They're not bad. There's no such thing. My spending is going to look different than your spending. A family of 1 is going to look different than a family of 7. A family in California is going to look different than a family in Mississippi, whatever. Everybody's is going to look different. So there is no such thing as an average grocery budget. That's ridiculous. There's so many factors that you're not taking into account. How big is your family? What age is your family? What are the dietary restrictions? Where do you live? What does your time look like? There's so many factors. So please do not Google what is normal, because there is no such thing as normal ever, especially when it comes to spending. The best thing you can do is try to be better, air quotes, better than a past version of yourself. We're trying to be the best version of ourselves. We're not trying to be the best version of random person on the internet. Okay. We're trying to be the best version of ourselves. So if you want to figure out how to be air quotes better than past you, you got to see what past you was spending. Past you was spending $800 a month on restaurants. Personal example. So present you maybe wants to try to spend 700, and then next month wants to spend 6, and then 5, or whatever your goal. Or maybe you're like, hey, I make, $500,000 a year. I can spend $800 on restaurants. Like, there's no right or wrong answer here, you guys. It is just about aligning with your values. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So I'm going to hold that thought, but tracking your spending, analyzing your patterns, and trying to beat your old numbers. It's just data. Okay. It's not good or bad. And we're going to go from there. Okay. So planning ahead, tracking your spending, analyzing your patterns, looking for, hey, I see. And sometimes when you start to really watch yourself, and this is so fascinating because I see my clients do this all the time, you start to find your patterns. You start to find, say, for example, your kid plays soccer. You're probably going to pick up dinner more often during soccer season. Or for me, it's like my husband works off. So we had 3 weeks together, 3 weeks where he's at work, right? My spending is much, much lower when he's at work because I'm a really big introvert and I would much rather like go to my sister's house for my socialization and basically spend no money. When he's home, we're out and about, we're doing things, right? But also, looking at like, I'm going to pick up dinner sometimes more because I'm solo parenting, or I'm going to get like more prepared food from the grocery store that's probably a little more expensive as like raw chicken or something, right? So just you'll start to see those patterns. A lot of times we'll start to see people like, hey, once a month I go to Costco and like bulk up, and then the other 3 weeks of the month, they're kind of just, fill in the gaps like $50 to $100 grocery shopping. Like I just go get produce. And then the other time of the month, it's like I drop $500 at Costco or something. Like you'll probably start to see some sort of pattern. Again, everyone's patterns are going to look different, but that is a huge part of it, is learning yourself, collecting that data. And I wish that there was like some magic switch that we could flip and like I could tell you, hey, you just set this budget up once and then you're just good to go. But it's not ever going to be like that. It is like laundry, it is like dishes. It's never really done. It's more of like, I could check it off my to-do list, maybe for today or maybe for this week, but it's never really going to go away. So I think once we kind of wrap our head around that fact that it's going to be a revolving, just household adult living chore, and it's just kind of how it is. So the whys of budgeting. Okay. So if you're listening to this, you probably assume there's some benefit to budgeting. Maybe you're not like you haven't fully drank all the budgeting Kool-Aid like I have. You're not totally as obsessed with it as I am. But what exactly are the whys? Why are we doing this in the first place? I am such a why question person. When I was a little kid, I always, why? But why? So I want to know why. I want to tell you why. And maybe this will help you kind of wrap your head around that and see that this is not a punishment. Maybe it's not super fun. Maybe it is like the equivalent of dishes and laundry to you, but it is super necessary. Like dishes and laundry aren't fun, but we at least know why we have to do them, right? So maybe this will help. And for me, I just kind of relating this, and what I think is super interesting is that for us, budgeting was the thing that flipped the switch. Budgeting is the thing that changed everything. So my husband has had this same career since he was 20. He's working on 18 years now with this same job. But of course, we've got cost of living raises, et cetera. But more or less, on the same trajectory, same income level. Inflation goes up. Of course, our income has gone up, but we have been able to build our net worth to, it's about $460,000 at the time of recording this. When 10 years ago, we were in debt $490,000. So we've done a complete, negative $500,000 to almost positive $500,000 in 10 years with more or less the same income, the same career, at least. My income does bring in some to the family, but it's not really a heavy stream of income at the moment, just complete discretion, just complete sharing all the things here. But budgeting was the thing that really helped. It was the thing that really helped us get our eye on the prize. What are we doing? Right. So first of all, it's the planning ahead. Okay. So this is why we do it. Why we plan ahead is because we want to get that bird's eye view on your budget. For my clients, I love to do a year because they can really zoom out. They can really get their head out of the weeds of this bill is due, that bill is due. Oh, I need to get groceries. Oh, somebody's hungry. Oh, we need to, the day-to-day gets really, really loud and chaotic. And so when we zoom out, when we plan ahead, we get a bird's eye view. We're up looking at it overall. And then we can really start to see, oh, hey, look, that part of the month, we're actually in the negative. Usually we'll have a heavier side of the month. Most of the time it's like either our rent, our mortgage, or daycare or tuition for our kids. It's almost always those things. Those are the most expensive things that most people have. So maybe we'll see when we pay the rent, we're short, the budget is negative. That's not good. And then we'll see maybe the other side of the month, we have extra money. We're I know that overall I'm getting the bills paid, but sometimes I feel like we have tons of extra money. And sometimes I feel like we have none. And I don't understand why. And that's probably it. You haven't zoomed out enough to see the pattern of, hey, here we're short, here we have extra. So when you zoom out, you can look for that and you can be prepared for it. And how you break the paycheck to paycheck cycle is you see, oh, here I'm going to be $1,500 short. So I'm going to really bust my butt. And before that negative happens, I'm going to get ahead. Obviously, this is easier said than done in some cases. I'm not saying that it's not, but that's how you break the paycheck to paycheck cycle. That's your first goal. I'm going to get that $1,500 ahead before I get to that negative, and then I won't be playing catch up all of the time. So I'm going to set it maybe in my savings account or something. Or if you really have a lot of self-discipline, you can leave it like floating in your bills account. It takes a lot of self-discipline to do that, but you are welcome to like send it over to your savings and then pull it back to your checking when you know you're going to be short. But that's how you break the paycheck to paycheck cycle. And that is why you want to plan ahead. You want to be prepared for those times that you are going to be short. But you also want to have a plan for those times that you're going to have extra money. Because if we don't make a plan for those times, that money is going to vanish. It just will. I don't know about you guys, but I love to spend money. My husband loves to spend money. My kids definitely love to spend money. And if money sits around for too long, we will spend it. It will disappear. So for those times when you see that there is going to be extra money, we're going to make a plan for it. We're going to say this much of it is going to go to savings or debt payoff, or the really fun part, we're going to increase our spending. Maybe we do have enough actually to go out to eat one more night, and that's what we want to do with it. That's up to you. So that is a huge part of it as well, is so you can be really intentional for those times that you do have extra money. The whole point of this is to give your life some forethought, to give your money a purpose, to give yourself permission to spend, permission to put money in savings, permission to pay off debt. If you know for a fact you've covered all of those negative sides of the month, like check, those are step one, those are covered, we're ahead of the game. You know for a fact that anything left over after that, you can do whatever you want with it. You can go spend it all if you really want to. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have, bigger fish to fry. You're going to have goals that are going to be a lot bigger than let me go shopping, let me go out to eat. You might increase it a little, but most likely you're going to be like, oh, hey, cool. That's when I can build up my emergency fund. That's when I can pay off my debt. That's when I can kind of get that ball rolling on these bigger goals that I have. And you're giving yourself permission to do all of those things. You know what that is? That is empowerment, my friend. That is telling your money where to go, not wondering where it went. I think that's a Dave Ramsey quote, but it's actually one of his decent quotes. Tell your money where to go. That's what you're doing. You are actually making progress and achieving your goals. And this is why you're going to work. This is where your money is going. And that gives you like, why do I have to go to work? Why do I have to do a budget? If you're like me and you just want to be a toddler and throw a tantrum sometimes, which, hey, you're allowed to do that too. But if you want to kick and scream and ask, why do I have to go to work? Why do I have to do a budget? This is why. If you want to do those big fun things, like be debt free, have an emergency fund, go on cash flowed vacations, buy cash flowed vehicles, save up for a down payment up for a house, invest, all the things that you want to do, go out to eat more, increase your spending money, give more, all the things that we all want to do. This is how you do it. And this is why we do it. So we can do the fun stuff, not so we can just go to work just to keep our head above water, because that doesn't sound like any fun for anybody. So we want to be really intentional. We're busting our butts to make the money that we make. We're going to be really intentional with it. So next on the list is, if budgeting is so important, how do I start to build the habit of budgeting that I don't hate? Because I don't want you to hate it. And I know that not everybody is going to be as obsessed and think of it as much fun as I do. But let's talk about some of the pain points and why people don't like budgeting. So, people think that it's going to take too much time. There's not enough time to budget. And of course, like any habit, it's going to take a little more dedication in the beginning. Just like my health and fitness goal right now, I am extra dedicating time to it right now. I am really working hard to build that muscle and to let it become just part of who I am. And it is going to take a little more intentionality in the beginning. It's going to take a little more intentionality to maybe you do want to go back through those past 3 months of spending records. That's going to take a little more intentionality. It's going to take you a little bit to get your initial budget set up, especially if you do want to plan a whole year or 6 months. That's going to take a little bit of time. Okay. But the maintaining of it actually doesn't take that much. It's like if you want to do it every single day, it's under 5 minutes. I mean, basically, if you're going to do your budget every single day, the skeleton of your budget is set up. So what you're doing is you're going in and checking off bills that have cleared, and you're looking at your spending totals. Maybe you're writing down your transactions. How many transactions do you really have in one day? Like 5 at the most? That's not going to take very long. What 1 or 2 bills cleared in one day? That doesn't take very long to check those off. Double check the amount that's in your bank account with what your budget worksheet says you should need. That's a couple minutes. Even if you don't do your budget every single day, because let's be realistic, you're probably not going to every single day. But even if you check on your budget, say you just did it once a week, you've really gotten in the habit. You're a few months in. Your budget is really in a set it and forget it, which that's my goal with my clients, is to kind of get them to a point that it's a set it and forget it kind of budget. Your bills money is over in your bills account. You've left just enough in there, plus a little bit of a buffer, like $100 extra bucks. All your bills can just come out whenever they're ready. You have your spending money over here and your spending account, completely separate account. All you're really doing in the day-to-day is kind of checking your spending balance, making sure that you still have enough to buy your next set of groceries, to go out to eat again, to get another tank of gas, to order that random thing that you don't really need, but you want, So you're really just looking at your spending balance in that account. So even if you did your budget once a week, it's like 20 or 30 minutes, maybe. It doesn't take that much. One of my favorite sayings is you spend 40 hours or more a week working for your money. You should be able to take 20 minutes to work on your money. It really doesn't take that long. When I do my coaching calls, my biweekly clients, which are my new clients, we meet for an hour and we get everything done for they're basically set up for 2 weeks in under an hour. And most of that is us catching up, them asking questions about the worksheet, them asking questions about, big vision kind of stuff like investing questions or debt payoff questions or life updates. So we get 2 weeks of a budget done in well under an hour. It really does not take that much time. And just like anything else, the more you do it, the faster you'll get at it. So it really is not going to take that much time. Promise. And it'll be worth it. You're going to feel so much better when you just finally rip that Band-Aid off and log into your accounts, look at things, put money where it needs to go. My clients always tell me a lot of times if people have been kind of ducking me a little bit and avoiding doing their calls. And as soon as we do a call and they get their budget, everything squared away and put where it needs to go and cleaned up, almost always they're like, I feel so much better. Okay. Yeah, I feel better now. I feel better than before our call. Yeah, it's always better. But sometimes people also think that if they do a budget, they're never going to get to have fun again. They're never going to get to go out to eat again. They equate budgeting with scorched earth living. We hear those jokes on TV and the media and social media, all things about oh, I can't go shopping. We're on a budget. Like, that's just ridiculous. A budget gives you permission to spend without guilt. Like you've done that year budget, you've done that bird's eye view, you've seen, hey, like I'm going to be $1,500 short first half of the month. So second half of the month, I'm going to set that $1,500 and cool. I still have another 500 left to do whatever I want. So then you can take that you can divvy it up this much, 100 to savings, 100 extra for fun money, and then 300 to debt payoff or something like that. That's not an exact like hard and fast rule. It's just an example, but you can do what you want. You can spend more if you want to. It's up to you because all it really does is you're like, hey, if I spend more, that's just going to slow down my debt payoff goal, or that's going to slow down my savings goal, or that's going to be less that I can invest for retirement. And if you're fine with that, go for it. Like that's up to you. And that's where that empowerment kicks in. That's where it's like, oh, I get to decide. I get to decide. You get to decide how scorched earth you want your life to be or how much fun you want to allow yourself to have. Also, this is where it's like some people don't want to cut back their budget. They would much rather take on a second job or, build their education so they can get a higher paying job or work for a promotion, or they would much rather increase their income than cut back their spending. And hey, you can do that too. Like that, this is where it's completely up to you. Some people also will cut back their bills and they'll cut back their budget because they want to work less. They want to lower their income because they want to have a slower life. And they're like, man, if I move to a lower cost of living area, or I got my debt paid off, my monthly bills would be lower. And that's one of their goals. That's also, it's up to you. You get to decide. I think people also think that it'll cause more anxiety. It'll really trigger their depression because they're going to be faced with their financial situation constantly. And they feel like it's going to be like picking out a wound. And I totally get that. And I know that when you're really in the thick of it with your depression or your anxiety, that it can be hard to start something new. So that is really tricky. And that's also kind of like, do I have the capacity to take on this new project? Sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes it is just like a survival mode situation, and no judgment if you're in that season. I've had people who have tried to start like working one-on-one with me, and they are not in the right season for it. And it was way outside of their capacity. And it either didn't go well or they ended up flaking out completely. And we don't want either one of those things. So if you're not at a spot where you can take on a new project, it's okay for it to like sit on the back burner till you can. Just speaking as someone who has, been through the thick of it. And maybe that's something with your therapist that you can be like, hey, this is a goal that I want to work towards. And when I do have the capacity, it's something that I want to try to tackle and get on top of, because I promise once you do have that initial capacity to get all that initial, like the budget set up, the going back to look at the past 3 months of spending records, like all that initial hard work, the maintaining it is actually really not that hard. So you probably are going to feel some anxiety. It probably is going to bring up some negative emotions in the beginning. Especially if you come from a background of trauma, if you come from a background of no financial education, if facing your debt means really digging up the wounds of your divorce or your childhood or, any of that, there's going to be that. So maybe just like, reach out to your therapist to like, hey, I'm doing this and kind of taking on this new project. I'm going to need a little guidance along the way. And it is hard to face those things, but the reward is going to far outweigh the emotional challenges. I always think of it as a cleaning out the closet kind of metaphor. Like we all have that junk spot in our house, right? Even us minimalist kind of have, maybe you have that hall closet that anytime you go to put something in, you have to like close the door really quick before anything falls out. And it's something that you dread and dread and dread and you avoid. You don't want to go find the thing that's in there because you know it's going to be this huge thing and stuff's going to fall out and you're not going to be able to find it. It's going to be stressful. So you just avoid it. But once we really take the time, that initial time, you know it's going to take you like a day or two to really get in there, clean everything out, organize, purge, all the things. But once you do it, you're going to know where everything is. You're going to feel so excited about it. You're going to feel so motivated by it. You're going to go out of your way to open that closet just to look at it, right? We all have done this. Maybe it's like your garage or your storage shed or something like that. That's just really, it's weighing on you mentally. You have it on that mental to-do list of like, I really need to do that. I've really been avoiding it. And once you finally, carve out some time in your schedule, carve out some mental capacity to take it on, you know that the benefits are going to far outweigh the challenges. So maybe that metaphor will help you. I try to relate that to my clients a lot as well. Like, we're going to avoid it, but it's probably going to be better after it's all done. But it's like your debt. A lot of times with my clients, they have no idea how much debt they're in. Sometimes there are creditors that they actually forgot that they owed money to. And if you're feeling this way, you're definitely not alone. This is super, super common. But it is always better after after all those numbers are plugged into the spreadsheet or added up on your notebook. Like, it is going to be so much better just knowing it. And I always think of it as like facing a monster, or maybe if we want to go back to the cleaning out the closet metaphor of maybe, that feeling of like, I felt like there was a monster in my closet. And once I finally opened it, I knew for sure that the monster wasn't really that bad, or there wasn't a monster at all. I was just really overreacting. So it's kind of like just, pulling the covers back and like facing that monster face to face and really knowing what you're up against. Plus, you're going to feel so much more confident. You're going to gain the confidence of like, you're back in control. You're in the driver's seat of your money, of your life. You're going to, get more informed. You're going to be more aware. Like, for example, with the clients, sometimes they don't know that they owe these creditors. Okay, yeah, that sucks to like be reminded of something that you had forgot. Oh yeah, I forgot. Like, they had that account. It's in collection. But now you know. And now we can take steps to get it gone, to get it taken care of. So it doesn't have to stay in the back of your mind on that mental to-do list, constantly weighing you down, weighing you down, weighing you down. And this is where it really starts to, again, empower you, and it starts to kind of spill over into the rest of your life because you feel much more confident. You have much more of a capacity in the day-to-day because you're not constantly carrying that around in the back of your mind. Also, I think people are worried about not budgeting properly, or that they're going to make mistakes or they don't really know how to budget in the beginning, which, first of all, that's why a lot of us are offering one-on-one services. This is why I offer one-on-one coaching services. And a lot of my friends in the personal finance space are doing this as well. Because we know that it's hard and it's overwhelming, and that you're just terrified to make a mistake with something as important as your money. Number one, it's never going to be perfect. You are going to learn as you go. It will be messy in the beginning, but you will grow and you will learn and you will adapt over time. There are no budgeting police. There is nobody that's going to come in and be like, oh my gosh, you put this in the wrong order. What are you doing? Nobody is going to do that. That's not real. There are people, in the world like Dave Ramsey or like these stock market bros that make you feel intimidated, and they make it feel scary. They make it feel over your head. That is all with purpose. That is all to sell you their products and or services. That is all for it to make it sound really complicated, so you will just hire them or you'll be so scared that you don't invest. And then there's more for the stock market bros to have for themselves. This is all strategically done. And that's not the game that we play over here. My goal with my clients is to coach myself out of a job. I want to teach people how to do it so they don't need me forever. I don't want you to have to need me forever. That's not how I set up my programs. That's not my goal. My goal is to teach you the basics, sit with you, be your accountability partner so you'll actually do the thing. You'll actually hit submit on the debt payment. You'll actually transfer the money. And then you'll build the confidence, you'll build the knowledge. And then after a while, you won't need me anymore. That's my goal. And that's what I'm passionate about. For the past 4 years, I've worked with over 100 clients one-on-one, real women who took action on making big changes to their finances. My coaching sessions are designed to give you completely personalized budgeting support. Together, we'll organize your bills, build better spending habits, pay down your debt, build your savings, and invest for the future. I'll help you get a system in place that will set you up for success for years to come. I'll answer all of your questions along the way, talk you through all of your mindset blocks, and most of all, I'll be there to hold you accountable. So this time will be the time that you'll finally stick to your budget and make those dreams a reality. Visit sunnysideuplife.com/coaching to apply today to see if one-on-one budget coaching is right for you. So we're going to link to some old podcast episodes in the show notes where I dig into these things a little bit more, of defining your financial goals, things like that, how to juggle like paying off debt, saving for vacation, creating an emergency fund, and all of those things. So make sure to check those out. But let's talk about some of the right budgeting tools and how do you what approach do we need to take? Because I know, like we just said, we're terrified that we're going to do it wrong. So here's some of my suggestions. So first of all, I have my digital budgeting system, which is hosted through Google Sheets. It has tons of formulas, tons of automation, color coordinated, lots of prompts and things like that. Something that I've worked on for several years to perfect. It's what I use every single day with my coaching clients. Mostly I developed this for my coaching clients and I happen to just sell it on the side because might as well. It exists. It's available. It's $20. We'll link to it, of course, in the show notes for you. But it is completely customizable. And that's what I really love about it. But it's not the only option in the world. And it might not be the best option for you, even though it is really customizable, I will say. But search on Etsy. You know, maybe there's somebody's product that you relate to more than mine. That's totally fine. I don't care. Like, I want you to have success with your budget. That is the most important thing. There are also like lots of apps. There's YNAB. Of course, there's Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar. There is one called Monarch that I really like. One of my clients used it once and she gave me like a guest access to it. So I could kind of go in there and like check off her bills paid and stuff. And it was really cool. What I really liked about Monarch was that it is very customizable. I find that a lot of the budgets like Every Dollar and YNAB and stuff, they want you to do a monthly budget, which doesn't work for everybody. And it wants you to kind of more, I don't know, I just feel like it's a little too constrained. I feel like you can't customize it enough, but with YNAB, Every Dollar, Monarch, some of these, a lot of them you can link to your bank account, which is super helpful, especially for tracking your spending. Monarch, I think you can customize it a little more to my liking. I was pretty impressed with it. But I also have people who will just kind of use these apps really to just track their spending. Because the biggest con with some of these apps I find is that you can't really plan ahead well enough. You can't plan like your whole budget and kind of do that zoomed out bird's eye view that I was talking about as well. So some people will just kind of use the apps to like have them integrated into their checking account or their credit card to kind of track their spending and group up their spending, which you could also do, of course, yourself on a spreadsheet or in a notebook or something. So just, test the waters. If you're brand new to this, try some of them. Try my budgeting worksheets, $20. Try some of these apps, especially if they have a free version, test them out. Honestly, one of the best things I think you can do is get a pen and paper and start there. That's where I started, honestly. And start with, which I'm going to go through my steps in just a second, but just get a brand new blank notebook, a brand new blank journal, or go get a piece of computer paper, like just regular white printer paper, and write it out. Get a blank Excel or Google Sheets and just start dumping stuff in there. Like, it doesn't have to look perfect or be perfect. You really just need all the numbers in one place to start. Experiment. Be like someone who's like, hey, I'm testing the waters. I'm trying to figure out what works. I will say, if you are someone that is on the ADHD spectrum and you do have a tendency to be an out of sight, out of mind kind of person, a notebook, or you can do like maybe you get an Etsy template or even my worksheets, or you make your own Excel and then you print them. Sometimes that can be really helpful for my ADHD folks because you can leave it somewhere that's like in your way. You can leave it on the kitchen counter, on the dining room table, on your desk, whatever, or it's in your way so you don't forget about it. Because a lot of times if it's in the drawer, it's gone. It's forgotten. I'm the same way with my medicine. I'm the same way with my my skin routine. Like, it has to stay on the counter or I'm going to forget about it. So if that is you with your budget, also just kind of know yourself. I see some people who are not computer savvy people. Their jobs are not tech based and they try to do this really intricate Excel sheet and they're not computer people and they don't enjoy it. And it is not going to be their cup of tea. Maybe pen and paper is for you, or maybe a printed worksheet, something that got made on Excel, but you print. Or the other way around. For me, I'm always on my computer. I love the formulas. I love that it adds up things for me. I love that it makes charts for me. I love all that kind of stuff. So to me, pen and paper, I'm like, oh, this piece of paper doesn't add up things for me. I have to add this up myself. What? Like, what year is it? So to me, the tech side of it is part of the fun. So to each his own, and don't be afraid to switch it up for different seasons of life. Like I said, when I first started, mine was pen and paper. I think it was like computer paper written by hand. And then I made myself a template that I printed and then I filled in by hand. And now I do mine completely digital, but my life is very different. Back then I had babies. And so it was more of like, I need to be like sitting at the kitchen table with them, or I need to be like chasing them around the living room. And my budget needs to be on a notebook so I can work on it when I have 5 minutes. But there are lots of different types of methods of budgeting as well. You'll hear a lot of like percentage budgeting, like 50, 30, 20 budgeting. Different things, like different approaches like that, which I think they can be helpful as a guideline. But then a lot of people are going to fall into the trap of, well, I can't, save that percent, or I can't invest that percent. Like that's not realistic for me. So it can be a decent guideline, but again, like kind of going back to the groceries, I don't think that there is hey, this is what the average person is doing. A lot of times I don't feel like that's super helpful. You could go based on any Instagram post that I've ever done that we try to have an example in it. It's just going to cause controversy because there's no such thing as normal or average, or even giving an example is usually just going to start everybody arguing about how much their cost of living is, if it's cheaper or lower. And it gets to this whole thing. So I think my experience-based opinion is the best thing you can do is do like a combination kind of pay period budgeting and zero-based budgeting, or kind of following like a timeline schedule, which we'll talk about in just a second. So either doing like a monthly budget, weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, which is twice a month, not to be confused with bi-weekly, which is every other 2 weeks. Those are different. Bi-weekly is going to give you 26 budget periods. Semi-monthly is going to give you 24. Weekly is going to give you 52. Monthly is going to give you 12. So just to put that out there. And some people's budget periods are not going to fall into any of those. I've seen some crazy budget periods. I've seen what really trips people up is when you have multiple streams of income. One family, 3 streams of income, one family, 5 streams of income. I've done all these kinds of budget. People who work strictly on commission, people who work strictly in sales. It's going to be all over the place. Entrepreneurs that can pay themselves whenever they want. And they do. And it's all over the place. So you can do a combination of any of these. Really, I think what it comes down to, which I'll talk about just a second, is really just telling that money where to go, which is what zero-based budgeting is. Zero-based means that when you're done, it should equal 0, which means you've told every single dollar where to go in your budget. You take your paycheck, which is $2,000, and you tell it, say your paycheck's $2,000, $1,500 of it needs to go to bills. 500 of it goes to spending, and it's gone, and that's it, 0. Of course, those are just examples. Don't get all bent out of shape like people do on Instagram with my numbers. But that's what a zero-based budget is. But I think the best thing you can really do is do kind of a per paycheck and a zero-based budget combo. So let me go through my steps real quick of how you kind of plan out your budget. So I always say start with your budget period dates. If you just have one stream of income, that's going to be very cut and dry. Your budget period starts on the day you get paid. Easy peasy. If you have multiple, it is a little more of a challenge. So either kind of go with the paycheck that kind of brings in maybe more money or maybe is more consistent, something that you can follow the pattern of. Sometimes you'll get lucky and it's like one partner gets paid every other Thursday and the other partner gets paid every other Thursday, but opposite Thursdays. So maybe your budget always starts on Thursday. My paycheck, their paycheck, something like that. Or you can find some kind of pattern, but usually this is one of the things that will really trip people up. So again, there's not going to be a right or wrong answer, but really don't feel like you have to squeeze yourself into a monthly budget because that doesn't always work for everyone. Don't feel like you have to squeeze yourself into a weekly budget, or you don't have to squeeze yourself into any type of budget. Throw all of that expectation out the window and do what really works for you. And this was one of the biggest make or breaks for my budget, was when I figured out for our budget at the time, we had to do a 6-week budget, which follows absolutely no rules. No apps will work correctly for doing a 6-week budget, but that's what we had to do because my husband's work schedule, he works 3 weeks, he's off 3 weeks. And so we would get paid accordingly. So essentially we had a 6-week budget. And when I figured that out, that I didn't have to follow anybody else's rules, it was just this huge light bulb moment, which trajectory led us to where we are today. Because I stopped trying to follow everybody else's rules of doing a monthly budget because it didn't work for us. So you have to decide what your budget period dates need to be and kind of follow that pattern. For us now, we're doing a bi-weekly budget. We get a paycheck every single 2 weeks on a Thursday. So our budget goes from Thursday to the Wednesday before our next pay day. So it's a 14-day budget. And that's what works for us. And so essentially what you'll do is you'll establish your budget period dates, whatever they need to be. You'll write down, and you can do this on a blank piece of paper. You can do this in a spreadsheet. I don't care. Doesn't matter. You have your budget period dates. Say it's like January 1st to January 14th because you get paid on the 1st and the 15th or something. So you'll write down all the income that's going to come in between the 1st and the 14th. There's your income. And you'll do that for the whole year if you can get yourself to commit to that. If you can get yourself to sit still that long, it's going to be super handy. Something like my worksheets or different worksheets, different apps and stuff are going to make it really easy to kind of copy and paste this type of situation to help you really plan ahead. Then you'll want to know every single bill that is due during those budget periods. So if it is January 1st through 14th, tell me all the bills that are due. Tell me your rent's due on the 1st and how much it is. Tell me your electric bill is due on the 5th and how much it is, et cetera, et cetera. Go down that list. And then the other side, you'll want to know, hey, the 15th through the 31st, what income is coming in then and what bills are going out then. Simple, simple, simple. And then once you kind of figure that out, you can copy and paste, and you've got all your months. Don't forget to account for non-monthly bills, weekly bills. Make sure that you're actually putting, they're going to happen, if it's weekly, it's going to happen 2 times during this payday, or it's going to happen 3 times during this payday. Quarterly bills, some, trash, water, some things like that will happen quarterly. Annual bills, things like renewing your Costco membership or renewing your Amazon Prime membership, things like that. Sometimes those will be annual. Don't forget about those. Plug them in accordingly where they fall in the budget. Then your spending will be next. So we have income minus bills so far. Now we want to do minus spending. So we want to estimate how much we're going to need for each category during these periods. I say keep your categories really simple. Don't overdo it. 5 categories is probably plenty. 10 is more than enough. So it's kind of somewhere in there. You can go back and collect past data like we talked about. If that's too overwhelming, you start right where you are, start tracking your spending, start adding up those totals. And then it can be as simple as I spend this much on groceries. Also, groceries includes my dog food. Groceries includes my makeup. Groceries includes my laundry soap. I get it all from the same place. It all goes in the same category. Keep it really simple. Groceries, gas, restaurants, extras, for sure. Like everybody needs those. That's only 4. Like you can add a couple more if you need. If you need to have your pets in a separate category, if your fun money needs to go in a separate category, if each partner wants to have their own fun money, if you want to give the kids their own category, you want to have a personal care category, all of this can go in there, but it doesn't have to. Like if it's too overwhelming, keep it simple. And then once you've started to collect data, whether you go back and look at the past months or you start tracking today and a month from now, you have some data to look back on, whatever it is, then you can start to slowly cut back if needed. And you don't want to do too much all at once. So for me, when I first added up our restaurants, we were spending like $800 a month on restaurants because we were eating out 2 to 3 times a day. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. But also, we're not placing judgment on these numbers. We were simply collecting data. But I was really beating myself up over it. But I also knew that this was a lifestyle that we were really, really used to. So I knew that if I had a complete culture shock, it would not end well. It would not build sustainability. It would equate to a diet culture. I would starve myself quite literally because I really didn't cook back then. But you can equate it to a diet culture. We don't want to binge and purge. Like that's not healthy. We want to have a good relationship. We want to have a nice, steady relationship. We don't earn our cookies. We allow ourselves to eat cookies a reasonable amount, right? Diet culture, money, you can equate it in a lot of different ways. So if you are spending $800 a month on restaurants and you feel like that's too much, we want to cut back slowly. So we want to make it $700. We want to make it $600 a month later. We want to just slowly cut back. Also, if you're someone who hasn't been giving yourself intentional fun money, that might be something that you want to build up over time. You're like, hey, $5 a week, get yourself a latte. Like you're allowed to have some fun. Build it up. The less that you're doing mindless spending, the more you can do intentional planned out spending, and you can allow yourself to have budgeted in fun and put that into your budget. Okay. So also remember that your spending budget isn't always going to be copy and paste. You are going to have, like I used the example earlier about maybe you do a Costco run once a month, and then the other 3 weeks of the month are, getting like produce, and it's like $50 or something. So kind of take that into account when you're planning out your spending budget. It's not always going to be copy and paste, and it doesn't really need to be. Also things like haircuts, like you're not going to have a haircut every single week or something, some people maybe like once a year or 3-4 times a year, something like that. So, same thing with like your pets, food, cat litter, things like that. You're not going to need those every single week sometimes. So kind of plan accordingly. Your budget does not have to be copy and paste. So what we've done now is income minus bills minus spending. What's left over? So then once you know those numbers, that's like the foundation of your budget, income minus bills minus spending. Once you've done that and you know what's left over, or you know what you're short and where you need to cut back, maybe if it's negative, we got to cut back, or we got to increase our income, or we got to do both. But if you do have money left over, then you get to plan what to do with that money when it's left over. And you can be really intentional with it. Oh, cool. I'm going to have this much money left over. I can put this in savings. I can pay this to debt. I can increase my investments. I can increase my fund money, or all of the above, whatever it needs to be. That's it. That's a budget. Income minus bills minus spending equals leftover heading. Okay, what do I do with leftover? Savings, debt, investing, fun. That's it. It's that simple. And you can plan that out on a blank piece of paper, in an Excel spreadsheet, in a journal, in a notebook, in an app, all of the above. It doesn't matter. It really can be that simple. So after you have all that kind of set up and that initial legwork is done, if that is too overwhelming, also side note, this is exactly what I do in coaching. Like I will literally set this up for you and teach you how to use it. It's exactly what we do in coaching. So if that is way too overwhelming, apply for coaching. I will help you. I'll do it for you. It's what I love to do. So then once you have this kind of set up, we're going to want to establish a routine, set a specific time in the week to review your budget. I usually say on payday is the best if you can. For me, I will do mine first thing in the morning. Like I usually kind of plan to get at my desk a little bit early on payday so I can do it first. I also have some clients who will schedule their calls with me as soon as they get off work on payday, because they're like, as soon as I get home on payday, we're going to move this money where it needs to go. Or some people will do theirs on their day off because they just know they're going to have a little bit more energy and brain capacity to kind of handle it on their day off. Doesn't matter. Consistency is key. Form that habit. Pick a time that works for you. Also, be flexible with it. If you're sick, or you have to work over, or your kid is sick, or an emergency comes up, be flexible. My trainer, Chloe, she loves to say tools, not rules. So we want to build the habit. And it's not like, oh, if I couldn't do it first thing Thursday morning, everything's out the window. No, like I've built the habit. It would be best if I would do it first thing on payday morning. But if it doesn't happen, if I'm sick or I have an early call or something happens, I have the habit built that I know that my week is going to be much better off when I finally do. Maybe it's Thursday over lunch. Maybe it's Thursday after the workday's over instead of first thing Thursday, So kind of be able to flex when needed. There are also lots of habit tracking apps that you can use. You can pull out the old kindergarten sticker chart, give yourself a sticker, give yourself a reward after you stick to it. Put alarms in your phone, put it on your calendar, put it on your to-do list. If you love, checking that off the to-do list, you get that little boost of serotonin there too when you check it off your to-do list. For me, I use Trello for all my work and personal tasks. So I put it on my Trello board. You treat it like you would any other household chore or any other appointment. Like, oh, I have to go to the chiropractor, Tuesday at 8:30. You would do the same thing with your budget. I need to work on my budget 9 a.m. Thursday morning, whatever it is. Just like you would any other household chore or appointment. Make sure that whenever you're scheduling these meetings with yourself, that it is a good time. It's not like you're going to be interrupted a million times. You're going to, try to find a quiet few minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Also, if it feels like it's going to be a really big, overwhelming task, set a timer on your phone and say, hey, I'm going to work on my budget for 30 minutes. And whenever that timer goes off, I'm going to get up and I'm going to get the most important stuff done first. And it's going to be good enough for today. But with these reminders, eventually it will become a habit. You will build that pattern. You will build that habit. And it will become second nature to you. It's just going to take a little bit to build that muscle. Eventually, you'll just be like, oh, yeah, that's just what I do. That's just who I am. That's just what I do. And it's just little things like that. Also, I think one more thing about that is habit stacking. I forgot to put this in my notes, but habit stacking is really, really helpful with picking a habit that already exists. For me, when I first started, my kids were really little and I didn't have a lot of quiet moments in the day. And so for me, I would get my budget and I would set everybody down for breakfast. And I knew that I had a few minutes when all the kids would be eating. And maybe it was only like 10 minutes. It wouldn't be long, but I knew that once everybody was sitting with their breakfast in front of them, I would have a few minutes that I could check on the budget, do it first thing in the morning, and kind of set the tone for the day. Before I went grocery shopping, before I ran errands, before I paid bills, I'd know like where we were financially with everything. So maybe you kind of stick it with a goal, with a habit that you're already sitting still for. Where can I go ahead and add this? If you're really good at like planning your calendar out for the week, that's when you're like, all right, let me go ahead and just make my money plan for the week, right? So start small. You don't have to do all of this at once. Start your budget with a really simple version: income minus bills minus spending, leftover. What do I do with the equals leftover? Now, what do I do with the leftover? Start really small. Start with, 5 spending categories. Don't overdo it. Start with, I have, one checking account over here that I pay my bills with. I have another over here that I do my spending with. On payday, I transfer my spending allowance over to my spending account. I keep my spending completely separate. I know it sounds like, how many checking accounts do you want me to have? That's crazy. But I promise you, once it is digitally separated, it is going to feel so much easier to keep an eye on that spending, especially if you have a really active family with a lot of moving parts. It is going to feel so much simpler. That way your bills can be over there, set it, forget it. You leave a little bit of a buffer. Your bills can just come out whenever they're automated to come out. And it's really easy. You don't have to worry about investing in the beginning. You don't have to worry about a 5-year plan in the beginning. You don't have to worry, am I behind? How do I catch up? How do I've waited too long. Let me beat myself up a little bit. My kids are getting too big. How am I ever going to pay for college? What about cars? What about weddings? What about retirement? Okay. Whew. Take a deep breath. We're going to do one thing at a time. We're going to build that muscle. First thing you have to do is establish your budget in the beginning. There will be time. You will build up to it. The key here is to avoid the overwhelm and to simply start building a habit. Start building the muscle. Track your progress as you go. Regularly assess your progress. Think about some of those long-term goals you have. Eventually, you'll feel confident enough to set up some big picture goals, to set up, hey, this was my emergency fund goal. And look, it was $1,000. Now I'm already at $500. Or to look at where you started with your debt versus where you currently are with your debt. I had a client the other day who we hadn't had a call in quite a while because she had some personal issues come up. And I think it had been like 6 weeks since we had talked. And she's like, man, it's been a big mess. It hasn't been great. I'm like, well, let's look at the budget. So we're like updating her current debts, which there's a tab in my worksheets where you can side by side compare where your debt started versus where it currently is, and it'll give you a total. So we're on that tab and we're updating her totals. And she's like, yeah, that one's paid off and that one's paid off and this one's down to this and da 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 da. And we're like adding up her debt. And I was like, you've made $4,000 worth of progress. And she's like, what? Yeah, you made $4,000 worth of progress in like 2 months. And she's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, look at the numbers. And I was like, I thought you said you hadn't done anything. I thought you said that it wasn't going good. And she was like, oh, that's why we track our progress. Because all of a sudden she was like, oh, actually I have done something. What? And it was a crazy moment. And I've had those moments more than once with my clients. Also, involve your partner if applicable. Get an accountability partner. If you don't have an accountability partner, or you don't have a partner who's involved, or you don't have a partner at all, this is another great example of where one-on-one coaching really, really comes in handy, because I will be your accountability partner. I will tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, time to check in. Hey, look, celebrate this. You paid off $4,000. If you can, getting your partner involved where you're setting those big picture goals together. You're doing this together as a team. And this doesn't have to happen all overnight. Okay. Just someone that you can really share with, an accountability partner, a friend that gets it, a family member who gets it. If that's not in real life, that's finding a friend on social media in the debt-free community, signing up for coaching, getting an accountability partner, whatever you need to do. Okay. Life will have its changes. Seasons will be seasons. There will be times where it'll be hard, and that's okay. And that's normal. So your budget is a living document. It needs to flex with you. Tools, not rules. Build a great foundation, build the muscle. I promise there is time. I promise that we start small and we build from there. It doesn't have to be all at once. Okay. So remember this as you dig into this. Remember to reward yourself. Remember to celebrate your wins. Remember to, set little mile markers along the way. Hey, we get this much of debt paid off. We go away for the weekend. Hey, we get this much saved. Then we, buy the thing that we've been waiting to buy, whatever it is. It can be small. It can be, hey, for every $500 we get built up in the savings account, we're going to have a date night, something like that. I'm going to go get a manicure every $1,000 that I pay off in debt. We basically are overgrown toddlers. So don't sell yourself short on those little treats along the way. I promise you they will do wonders to your motivation. All right. So I hope that this episode was helpful. I feel like I have been talking for a very long time. I have no idea how long this episode is going to be, but I hope that it was really helpful. I hope that you have some great takeaways, that you were able to take some notes, that, you really absorbed some of the things that I was talking about. I really just want the takeaways to be: start small, build the muscle, let it be flexible. Let it grow over time. I promise that it will get easier and you will get stronger, and you will eventually just be someone who simply does a budget. And I promise it won't be this overwhelming forever. So I hope this was helpful. That is all for me today. I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out for another episode of a Sunny Side Up Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and leave a review. 5-star reviews are what help the podcast grow. Don't forget to check out the episode show notes for links to everything that we talked about in today's episode. And if you want to access all of my free resources, or you want to learn how to work with me one-on-one, head over to sunnysideuplife.com to get started. And if you want to keep up with me in the day-to-day, don't forget to follow me on social media at A Sunny Side Up Life. Well, that's all for me this week. Bye, guys.